Thank you so much for coming tonight and helping me to celebrate this book. It's been a long time coming. Those that know me, my personal story, indulge me to tell everyone. I started in 7th grade when I went to a private Christian school, and I graduated from there in 1984. Started to go to college in 1986 and learned that I did not graduate from high school. They had no record of me going to school beyond the 6th grade. So instead of taking a GED, I got angry and spent the next 25 years working in a factory, angry over my result. And then one day my wife told me, "Today is the youngest you'll ever be." And kind of pissed me off, to be honest with you, when she said that, because I already felt really old. But she was right. I would never be any younger in this life, so I stopped what I was doing, stopped getting angry, and I took my GED, went back to college, graduated college with my bachelor's in creative writing. And thank you. And part of that result was that I wrote the beginning of this story for my thesis, for my final thesis in school. And the rest of the story on May 8th of 2013, I was standing up I had a poem published, and I was standing up at the podium, and I was complaining with God because I really wanted the story to be more. And I looked out on the crowd, and this story was divinely revealed to me in its entirety. I saw it right before me. It took a lot longer to write it, but I knew it from start to finish because I saw it in a flash and I knew it had to be written. And it turned out as I wrote it, there was too much for one novel. As you can see, this one's pretty thick. So it turned out to be 3 novels. This is the first of that, and it is the journey of a kid named Nate. I know a lot of you that have known me my entire lives will be looking for yourselves in this story. And maybe it's a good thing, maybe it's a bad thing, but no one that I know is in this story. There are probably parts of everybody, but they're small parts. The majority of the novel is fiction. There's 2 parts in this novel that are real. And I decided I'm going to read both of those parts tonight. So no one will have to guess what's real and what's fake. Because the 2 things I'm going to read tonight really happened. And one of them, my dear friend Anne, one of them was actually her brother. That the first day of school, my first day at the Christian school, underline Christian there, school, the first day I met him, this was how we met, was under these circumstances. And I changed the name of the other kid to protect the innocent, but and her brother's name is Curtis. Trevor is not Curtis. They have nothing in common other than this one moment that really did, like I said, happen to me. The next morning at school, I spot Trevor coming out of the front office. According to his schedule, we have 2 classes together, American Literature and Geometry. In second period, our first class together, American Lit, Trevor walks in just as the second bell buzzes. He throws his backpack on the desk with a thunk and plops down in the seat next to me. "How's it going?" I ask. "It's cool, just hate new schools." "Sorry," I offer. "Not a big deal, I'm pretty good at fitting in." On my other side sits Joey Hopcheck. Joey sports a unibrow, wears his hair in a mullet, and has grease underneath his fingernails. Rumors circulate around school that this is Joey's 3rd attempt at 11th grade. The truth is, Joey only flunked 4th grade. And only because he bit teachers, yes, plural. And then he made everyone in the cafeteria throw up when he bit a live grub worm in half, chewed with his mouth open, and swallowed. I think his expulsion had more to do with the janitor cleaning up all that vomit than the teacher getting tetanus shots. Soon, Mrs. Jefferson, our American Lit teacher, checks her wristwatch. She watches it for a couple seconds and then closes her textbook, stands up, and straightens her skirt. She clears her throat in a way of getting our attention. Please take notes, she says, and turns her back to us and begins writing on the dry erase board. I start to copy what she's writing when Joey snatches my pencil. I begin to protest as he puts an index finger to his lips. If you tell Jefferson, I'll cut you, he says, he warns in a whisper. Then he pulls up the pant leg of his grease-stained blue jeans to reveal the top of his leather harness boot. He sticks his fingers inside, roots around, draws a 7-inch lockback buck knife. He flips the knife open as quickly as he took my pencil and holds the polished blade toward me. I will use this, he says, because I'm a man, and men ain't afraid of nothing, so you better not tell. I won't tell if you give my pencil back, I cut him off. I'm kind of being a smartass, but I'm not that scared. And besides, if there's any real concern, it's that this boy manages to walk around all day with a big knife shoved in his boot. As for his manhood status, I really have my doubts, but I give him a crooked smile, confused about how the situation escalated to this point, but still positive I won't be disavowed in the second period. You want proof, he says. With his other hand, he reaches for the collar of his retro Led Zeppelin t-shirt and pulls it down to reveal a very hairy chest. See that? That's from drinking. It puts hair on your chest. Teenagers consume liquids from coffee to energy drinks to God knows what else. But when we say drinking, we mean alcohol. It doesn't matter if it's Everclear or wine coolers, that's drinking. And apparently from the abundance of fur growing on Joey, drinking does put hair on your chest. And I give him my impressed head nodding, hoping it appears sincere. My dad drinks a lot, I return. He has a really hairy chest too. And just like that, the knife disappears. Joey gapes at his now empty hand. Much faster than Joey flinched my pencil, Trevor holds the knife. I hadn't noticed him get up and stand behind Joey. Give him back his pencil, Trevor whispers. Joey studies Trevor for about half a second, long enough to know he doesn't want to mess with the new kid. The air around us sizzles with this firestorm of intensity. Joey feels it too because he quickly complies and hands over my pencil. Trevor folds the knife closed and hands it back to Joey. Never do that again, Trevor whispers, drawing out each word. Joey's gaze has dropped to his boots, and he refuses to look up. Trevor eases back into the seat. That guy's an ass clown, he whispers in my ear, so close I can feel his breath on the side of my face. So much for fitting in, I say. and that was my first day at that Christian school. I'm sitting there writing. This kid reaches over, takes my pencil. I'm like, what'd I do? And he pulls the knife out, tells me he'll cut me if I tell anybody. And Ann's brother comes to my rescue. He walks around, grabs the knife from the guy, and tells him, don't take his pencil. Give it back to him. And he saw that I had KISS wrote on my Trapper Keeper we had back in the day. And he said, you like KISS? And I'm a nerd. Honestly, I liked KISS's logo better than I did the actual band. But, you know, I was like, yeah, I like KISS. Yeah. And so we struck up a friendship. and the other part that happened, it really happened, I thought would be good to share, was in the first chapter. Nate's life is much more interesting than mine, and I wish I could have had a childhood like Nate's in many ways. But fiction is always much more interesting than real life. But this happened to me at 8. It happens to Nate at 11. Maybe I'm a little bit more bent because it happened to me at 8 instead of 11. But, let me see. Oh, give you a little background. My puppy had just died, or Nate's puppy had just died. I'm reading in the first person. I never had a puppy that died in such fashion. As I said, this was the beginning of my thesis, and the novel starts with, on a beautiful Sunday in late August, my puppy died. And the reason I wrote that is when I first turned that chapter in for my thesis, my thesis chair looked at me and she said, "That's kind of bland. That it's a beautiful Sunday in late August and you're doing something. Who cares?" All right, I'll show you. I went home and I wrote, "Late August, my puppy died on that beautiful Sunday." She's like, "I like that." So Nate's puppy had just died, and as you know, the book is about love-starved heart, and that's where this novel comes from. Was the idea of how do we find love when it's absent from our lives? We're willing to do a lot of things, and we're willing to search in a lot of places to fill our hearts with love. And ultimately, we all will learn, and Nate in this book will learn, that the only one that is love is God, and only God can provide love. So when we love someone else, it is divinely given to us by God, because through Him, love comes forth. And so with Nate, from the time he was born to the time he was 11, he was in love with the girl across the street, Summer Moore. She was everything Nate wanted and everything he believed in. Well, after his puppy died, he was looking for someone to make him feel better. So we're going to start. We're going to start there. So that morning, I sniffed away the last of my grief for Pistol, dressed for school, and Mom dropped me off just before the tardy bell. In first period English, I passed a note to Summer revealing what I suspected of Pistol's fate. Although my parents never admitted to any such thing, Summer sent the note back, promising during recess that she'd cheer me up if I still was sad. So that afternoon, Summer and I snuck off alone and hunkered in a deep stormwater runoff ditch behind the playground. It was a sorry affair, swampy, lit only by fingers of light filtering through moss-littered oaks overhead. The air was stagnant, warm, and smelled of muck. "I'm sad Pistol died," I said in my most pitiful voice, sweat beads forming on my forehead. Summer gave me a smile that reeked of all this mischievous intentions. "I'm sorry too, but I'll make you feel better. I want you to promise you won't embarrass me." "I won't." Her serious green eyes studied me for a moment to make sure my loyalty to preventing her shame would remain true. "You cannot tell no one about this," she stressed, knowing I'd run straight to our friend Gro and tell him. "Promise," I assured her, making the zipper sign across my lips. "Okay," she begins, "I believe you. So what do we do? If you show me yours, I'll show you mine." She offered as her eyes ventured down. "But you go first." "Okay," I agreed with purient anxiety. With shaky hands, I fumbled for a moment with my zipper. Then, with a squishy stomach and quaky knees, I dropped my jeans to my ankles and fished my junk out of my Spider-Man underoos. She gave my ding-dong an indifferent stare that neither seemed all or disappointed. Then Summer lifted her yellow skirt and pulled aside her pink panties to reveal her prepubescent parts. She raised her eyebrows, awaiting my judgment. In all honesty, her nether region appeared very useless compared to mine. Untroubled by my objective stare, Summer's face was all lit up, her smile flickering. "You can touch it if you want," she offered. Sure enough, my brain turned to jelly as my dick darted out stiff and inattention. Frozen to the spot without reserve, my hand shot forward. A familiar voice shouted, "There they are, Mrs. Morris." The shout made my parts and hand contract. I realized I hadn't been breathing. I inhaled deeply, allowing oxygen to return to my brain. As if she heard the ice cream truck, Summer torpedoed out of the ditch in a thrash of swirling skirt. I just stood there and watched, mesmerized at her speed and agility, thinking of how close I'd been to touching her small butt crack-looking private part. After she crested the top, I spotted Brody Kringle pointing a fat finger at me from the playground above. "It's Nate, Mrs. Morris," he continued to shout. What a jerk. It's undetermined if the tow-headed Brody was the kith and kin of the Kris Kringle of Christmas lore legend. He was built like a refrigerator with rosy cheeks and a button nose, but unlike the jolly bearded fat man in the red suit, I'm pretty sure Brody signed over his soul to the devil with an oath to spend as much time as possible making my life a living hell. "My Lord, what are you doing?" Mrs. Moore shouted as she dropped into our bloody den of iniquity like a our muddy den of iniquity like a blue-haired ninja. My blood stopped when I remembered my jeans and underwear were at my ankles. I bent over to pull them up, but Mrs. Morris caught me by the scruff of the neck and hauled me out of the ditch. "You're coming with me, Nathan Evans." Swimming in sweat, my mind and stomach both somersaulting from embarrassment as my entire fifth grade recess group roared as we climbed out of the ditch. Mrs. Morris let go of me and stalked off to clean the mud and gook from her shoes. It at last allowed me to reach down and pull up my jeans, but Summer had managed to fade into the crowd and join in the chorus of laughter. "What were you doing?" Brody approached, his body a bundle of muscle and fat, his bull-like nostrils flaring, shoulders back, his width almost entirely blocking out the playground behind him. He leaned down until his massive melon head was only inches in front of mine. I could smell the multitude of pig-in-a-blankets he had ate for lunch. A classmate, Chastity Mollets, piped up. He was playing with himself. The crowd moaned a chorus of oohs. "You're a sicko," Brody exclaimed. I tried to hang on to my last thread of dignity, and Summer gave me a stare that said, "Shut up," but I impulsively replied, "I was with Summer." "You were not," accused Brody, cutting me off as Summer giggled in unison with the class. I stared down, making this little pyramid of sand with my muddy shoe. I had promised not to embarrass her. "Admit it, sicko," he says. I tried to pretend I was one of the oak trees on the playground, as solid and unmoving, impervious to the bullies like Brody Kringle. Instead, I shook with anger. My eyes filled up. This was all Brody's fault. My hand had been an inch from exploring the Mount Everest of girl parts when he rattled. As I got angrier, my vision blurred at the edges. Everything fell out of focus except Brody. I realized he had left me no other choice. Similar to a seagull going for a drop McDonald's French fry, I charged. Brody's ass-whooping about to begin. Then, out of that blurriness, came his meaty paw. It crashed into my noggin so hard blue-haired ninjas danced around me like seagulls over a Big Mac. Florida has 4 ambiguous seasons: tourist season, lovebug season, hurricane seasons, and summer. Not my summer, but the kind of summer in which the heat lulls in the shadows and carries with it the infestation of humidity that makes our body crevices all icky. The only relief comes from the sea breeze that blows over the Gulf of Mexico waters, which also brings the briny smell of the ocean inland. I laid there flat on my back. I could feel the sandy dirt, sand spurs prickling my skin, and the breeze brushing over me with the intensity of smelling salts. My class had dispersed back to the swings and monkey bars. Only Summer remained. "The whole class saw your ding-dong," Summer said as she stood over me. "And you promised you wouldn't embarrass me." "You didn't have to laugh with them," I countered. She sighed dramatically and then said, "I have a reputation to maintain." In that moment, I realized I didn't completely understand girls. So, I was wondering. Briefly, for those of you getting ready to read it, I briefly want to talk a little bit about the characters in the novel. The main star, of course, is Nate Evans. He's a 17-year-old boy that is lost, and he's looking for love, and he don't know where to find it. Summer's gone. He hinged all his dreams on Summer, and he don't know what to do after she leaves. But then he meets this new kid in town, Trevor. Trevor's good-looking, outgoing, and Nate sees a way into the cool crowd. And Trevor's his ticket into the cool crowd. And so he befriends Trevor and follows after Trevor like a puppy dog, trying to become part of that cool crowd and get in with the characters of Chastity and Becca. And Chastity and Becca are different as daylight and dark, and I guess that's why they're friends. Chastity is chastity. She's who you read in the book. There's not much depth to her. She's good looking, and she knows it, and she uses it, and that's why she's the girl that matters most in the school and gets to pick who's cool and who's not. And her best friend is Becca Tolley, and I will tell you, Becca started out based on Jordan Baxter from The Great Gatsby, my all-time favorite novel, and that was the character I had in mind, but then she grew a life of her own, a very complex life and a very tragic life that you will read about in the book. And then there's his good friend Gro. And Gro, as Gro would have you say it, is an African-American kid, almost a black kid, but Gro would get on to me because Gro is an African-American growing up in an all-white neighborhood. And for Gro, he wants to identify with his roots. He's 17 years old, and he's only ever known this world of white people, but now he wants to reconnect with his roots. And he does it in a nerdy way because Gro's a nerdy kid. He is an awesome mathematician and computer programmer. So, of course, he's using words that he thinks are going to make him sound street or make him sound urban, and they kind of make him like bro and broheim. They kind of make him sound more dorky than he actually is. But you'll see that in his characters. And somebody asked me, why is he saying stuff like that? And I said, well, it's because he's trying to connect with a side of himself that he's never had a chance to explore. And I think as we all get to be 14, 15, 16, 17 years old, we want to find out who we are and explore ourselves. And that's simply what Nate and Gro and Becca, and ultimately when Summer does return, what they're all trying to do is discover who they are and where in their place in the world. And like I said, and it's a story about love, and love is something that's divinely given. And these characters don't realize that. They think love is physical, so they get very hurt along the way. And that's really all I got to say. If anybody has any questions. Yes.
Who's Summer? You said you're going to read 2 stories that are true.
Uh-huh.
I went to school with you.
Yeah. You did not? I was saying.
We want to know who Summer is. Who was you in the ditch with?
Huh?
Who was you in the ditch with?
I was in the ditch with this little blonde girl named Dawn, who I grew up across the street from. Yep.
Someone knows you so well.
Well, my summer never returned. Nate luckily has a chance for the love of his life to return and for him to find out what that means. But like I said, he stumbles along the way, and luckily he has really good friends that keep him, or not to give anything away, rescue him from what could have been a very bad fate in his darkest hour, because it does get dark for Nate in this story, because he does lose things and lose people, and as I said, it's all physical, and then the spiritual starts crushing him, and he feels that there's no way out. So it has its dark moments, but again, that is all fiction. I read the 2 parts. It really did happen to me, because I've always read that people search for historical fact in fiction. And I said, well, I'm going to get that out of the way, because there's 2 parts in here that is. And I'm going to read those tonight. And one last thing before I let you guys go. I know it's been too long. I promise not to keep you that long. But one last thing before I let you go is some people would consider the story dirty. Some would consider, because there is drug use, there is alcohol use, there is profanity, and there is sex. Welcome to 2015. Welcome to 2015, and welcome to what we all deal with. And there is even a touch of racism in the book. I didn't deal with it very much, but I did one scene want to show that Gro is not fully developed into the character he wants to be. And so there is one touch on that because it's very dear. It's a subject very near and dear to my heart with racism, and it didn't get into it as much as it wanted, but book 2 and book 3 will explore those subjects more.
Which will be ready when?
Well, as I said, well, all I can say is pray because the Lord gave me this story. He's going to have to give me the second one. And so when that happens, the second one, I was given this story on May 8th, 2013, and on August 2nd, 2013, it was completely written. And the rest of the time has been editing and revising. And like I said, that took a lot of prayer and probably a lot more curse words than the Lord wanted to hear from me. Because I love to write, but I don't love to edit. And, it just needs to be right the first time. But fiction doesn't work that way. No writing works that way. It's just like modeling with clay. You start with a rough shape and you mold it into what you want it to be. And could I say this book's done? No, there's 100. I just reading these 2 parts. There's 15 things I'd like to go back and change. And so fiction's never done, but it's done enough that I wanted to share it with everyone. And I thank you so much for joining me tonight and helping me to celebrate this and this amazing accomplishment that the Lord has allowed me to do.